Swamiji has talked about food in this paragraph. Short and sweet. It's succinct. It's good enough for us to understand how to look at the effect food has on us and emotions. Then he says, just as imbalanced food can create many emotional disasters and have many negative effects on your life, so also does sex play a part in emotional balance. If the role of sex is not understood, its power in your life is very mysterious. I have observed that 99.9% of all people are controlled to some degree by the sexual urge. You need to understand the difference between food and sex. You must eat food to remain healthy. And if you don't eat food for several days, then you won't feel the sexual urge either. This means that food itself has an influence on the sexual urge. Food has a direct effect on your body. The body's needs are the most important part of your desires for food. Sex does not work like that. Sexual desires occurs first in your mind. The sexual urge is born first in the mind, and if the mind doesn't feel the desire, then you won't experience it physically, though it's the body that drives food. When you're attracted to someone physically, you say, I like you, because such sexual urges originate in your mind and then express themselves through the body. The desire for food, however, originates in the body and then affects your mind. Just as you should learn how to have good and healthy food, which means fresh, nutritious, well-balanced food, so should you also learn something about how to skillfully handle the sexual drive. This is an art that's not taught by parents. Your parents allow you to grow up, you become healthy and well-educated, and then you get married. But you still don't really know why you are married. You are not taught anything about the sexual urge or how to manage it. In ancient times, the rishis used to teach people these things and to impart the kind of training that helps you in that area. The whole question of what sex means to you in your spiritual life. Without such an understanding, everyone in the world just thinks of sex all the time, but does not understand how to handle it. For many people, both food and sex are equally out of balance. Next, there's another urge, the urge for sleep. Even if you are allowed to eat what you want and to do sex when you want, if you are deprived of sleep, you will become crazy and unbalanced and won't be able to live. The process of sleep should also be well understood. Sleep has many stages and levels. Just as you go from your living room to your kitchen and then from your kitchen to the bedroom, so also do you go through stages of sleep. And he talks about the dreaming process and sleep. Here's fun for the meditators. I recommend that those who are really meditators learn to wake up at 3 o'clock. That time of the morning is called Brahma Muhurta. When you learn to wake up at a specific time, then you will also learn to sleep, true willful sleep. Then you decide, I will get up at 3 o'clock, so now I have to sleep. And you will simply go to sleep. After all, everything that you are is under your conscious control, or it can and should come under your conscious control. Presently, you are not under your own conscious control, but under the control of your unconscious. Presently, you are not under your own conscious control, but under the control of your unconscious. Instead, your goal should be to train yourself to be under your conscious control. This is a very important process. The fourth urge is self-preservation. That means you always desire to maintain and protect yourself. You are afraid of dying. You worry that you might die or that someone might hurt you, and you wonder who is going to look after you. Because of this negative thought pattern, you experience fear. You become a champion of negative thinking. This is the result of the urge for self-preservation. However, when you learn to surrender yourself, to surrender this individual self to the Almighty, then you are free. The happiest person in the world is one who is fearless. A fearless person is one who has no conflicts. One who has no conflicts within or without is a balanced person, and he or she is creative. To be creative, you first have to be emotionally balanced. And to attain balance, you have to understand the negative emotions, how they arise, and how to self-counsel with them. You also have to cultivate and understand your positive emotions and then learn to express them through your mind, action, and speech. This is the beginning of learning to work creatively with your emotional nature. So we've talked about the emotions. Then he linked that with the way in which they operate in conjunction with the four functions of mind, manas, chitta, ahankara, and buddhi, and then spoke about how underneath all of the emotions is the four primitive urges. He doesn't say a lot here in this last one about self-preservation, but it's really the strongest one. It's the one where anything, literally anything that we have taken on as a false identity will be defended whenever it perceives to be threatened. He doesn't go into great detail on that because the chapter is the nature of negative emotions. Why? Because it's the negative emotions that are the obstacles. And he spoke in there of the wheel and the hub, and that if you get the spokes coordinated, the hub is already center of consciousness. So the thing that obscures that is not the positive emotions, love. That's not what obscures it. What obscures it is the negative one. To be relieved of the negative emotions, to be, yes, automatically it makes the positive ones there and leads us to the center. And then this, so if we sort of mentally juggle the concepts that he said, there's negative emotions, and those are operated with the four functions of mind, driven specifically by the four primitive fountains. Then what's underneath those? Or what's the missing piece? The missing piece is our own individual habits and samskaras. So if the primitive urge of self-preservation has to do with defending the false identities, which are stored in the chitta because of life experiences, it's come in and it's stored in the basement, the back mind, called chitta. And when those turn into active desire called kama, which leads to the other negative emotions, which increases the surge of ahankara as I-ness or ego, then what's the thing, what's missing? What are the particular false identities that are being defended? And that's the samskara.